I'm just going to shoot you straight about the Bills. That's exactly what I want to see from him. The result wasn't great.
Yeah.
And there's some reasons why the result wasn't great. But that's the Josh Allen. We haven't seen him all year. And I know they boat race the Dolphins at home. But I'm talking about coming to your house. The elements are all against you, literal and figurative. That's the Josh Allen we've all come to know and love and talk about as elite and, on a path to Hall of Fame greatness. That guy. You can't sack him. You can only hope to contain him, as Dan would say, right? And they couldn't contain him last night. They could not. The Eagles could not. He was so tough to get down on the turf. He ran two of them in. 420 total yards for him. I mean, good Lord. Threw it 51 times. Unreal. Spectacular game by Josh Allen. And with a coordinator change, that's exactly what you want to see. Seems like Joe Brady's kind of dialed into him, right?
Seems
and
like
vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, he's dominated the last 2 weeks.
This is exactly what you wanted to see. And this defense has taken an injury licking and keeps on ticking, man. And I understand the Eagles scored at the end, and I understand, I mean, if you want to nitpick here, outside of the officiating, let's just remove that. And I know Bills fans will say, how can you? I mean, Eagles are getting all the calls. We got no calls. I don't know how that was not a horse collar sack. Was that Hassan Reddick taking down?
Hassan Reddick, yeah. Ripped the front of his jersey.
Ripped the front of his jersey and then put it back. But he didn't pull him down like the typical horse collar tackle. He used it to take him down.
Yeah, kind of spun him.
But he didn't pull him down using that.
Then they call it grounding?
Well, they called grounding because it looked like he was trying to get rid of it when he was clearly going to get sacked. And there was nobody directly in front of him.
Whipped to the ground.
That said, the thing that drives me, I'm sure drives Bills fans a little nuts today, is Sean McDermott using one of his two remaining timeouts to ice a kicker who was being iced by the elements to begin with, along with the circumstances in which he's being rushed out there to kick it. And you call a timeout to let him collect himself, and then Jake Elliott, 61-yarder, what a missile. A laser.
Unbelievable kick.
To send the game 59 yards?
59.
To send the game in overtime. Yeah. And but it was only overtime because the Bills took a knee with one timeout left with 20 seconds on the clock. And I don't say this to troll. I really do not. It's just the truth that we've seen before. All you need is 13 seconds and a couple timeouts to get a game into position for yourself. So there was that, and then the little mistakes cost. The Allen did throw an interception. I just thought that was a great play by Bradbury. I mean, he comes off of coverage. He's out on the sideline and came inside to grab that one. It's not like Allen threw it directly at him. I mean, I think you just got to tip the cap sometimes, and I'll tip the cap. That's one of the few times the Eagles stopped Allen.
Yeah.
He was unstoppable. The unstoppable Josh Allen showed up, but the best part about it, I think, for him and for Bills fans is who he is. And that last mistake that cost them a third down toss into the end zone in overtime. That was an option route. It looked like Gabe Davis and him were not on the same page. Not even Romo, who has a sixth sense about this sort of thing, could peg whose issue it was. Because I don't want to say fault. When it's an option route, these things happen.
Yep.
But that question was asked directly to Allen after the game because that forced Buffalo to settle for a field goal in their one possession in overtime. And then the Eagles now knew what they had to do in order to win it, and they did. And so it was asked of Allen what happened there, because had that been a catch, it would have been a touchdown. And again, I understand Bills fans with their issues. Had the incomplete pass on A.J. Brown been ruled a catch fumble, as we saw in other games, including the Keenan Allen catch fumble in the night game that looked very similar.
Very, very similar.
Okay. That would have ended the game for the Bills' benefit as well. But Allen was asked point blank what happened on that play afterwards.
Can you explain on the last pass to Gabe? Was it just a miscommunication? You thought he was going one way, he went the other? Was that what happened?
Yeah, it's an option route. They're in zero, so we max protected it. Understanding, they're coming to get me. I made a guess and I guess wrong.
So, at worst, he's taking responsibility personally. At best, he might be covering for Gabe Davis. I love this guy, man. Because if he goes, yeah, I mean, do you know how many quarterbacks might be just like sitting there, ego this, I've been criticized that, sit there and go, yeah, I mean, Gabe was, supposed to go in and that's where I threw it. Or, we practice it a million times. Gabe goes in about 90% of the time. This time he went out. Like, where he doesn't really lay it on his feet.
Right.
But
like, hey, he saw the coverage I saw and he's supposed to go here and that's where I threw it.
Yep.
Right.
Like we've called it before and Gabe goes in and this time he went out.
Right.
And then you saw, Gabe slammed his helmet down. And again, that could just be lack of communication, whatever. I sit there and I love this guy. Boy, Buffalo, do you have the right guy? You've got the right guy. And again, it's rarely going to have, I can say never, you're rarely going to have a clean sheet with him. You really are. And I just, again, get the sense, just one more time for anybody who wants to count the Bills out. It's just a couple of years ago, on this very weekend, Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, Tom Brady's Bucs fell to 6-6 after losing a game at home to the Chiefs. And they wound up playing each other in the Super Bowl anyway. And the result was different. Just throwing that out as the Bills fall to 6-6 on the Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. The issue for them, however, is there's another 6-win team that's already beaten them in the Broncos at 6-5. The division, the Dolphins, they've already beaten them. Like, it's entirely possible you can somehow make up the 2 games on Miami before you see them in the last game of the season. Is that possible? I mean, Miami does have a game against Dallas and at Baltimore. Do they slip up in a game that they should win? Home against the Jets, home against Tennessee, at Washington? That's a tall order. So then the wild card, is that a way to get in? It sure is. The problem for that is their schedule. Because this just got started. They get a bye now. Take a breath, take a beat, get away from football for a couple of days if you want. Get healthy, obviously. And then come back. And man, you got to do what Philly just did, which is go to Kansas City and win. Then come home and take on Dallas before a visit out here to SoFi, where you started your season last year and ruined the Rams' banner-raising night against the Chargers, who are beatable. Certainly when you're going to be physical with them, I think. Home for New England and then that game at Miami. Does 9 wins seem crazy? You get 3 somewhere here?
But is 9 wins going to be enough to make the playoffs?
I think it may be in the 7 seed. It may be.
Maybe. Well, it's going to be tough.
And then you don't want to see them. That's it. You just don't want to see them. That's the team. Everybody, if you're in the AFC, you put up the standings one more time here. You're in the AFC and you're a team about to win your division, or maybe you go on that bye or whatever. You got a really good seed. You're the 2 seed. You want to see the Bills as just throw names out here. Which team would you want to see least as the 7th seed? Steelers, Browns, Colts, Texans, Broncos, Bengals, Raiders, Bills.
Maybe Bengals if Joe Burrow was healthy.
No, I'm talking about this year's.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
He's not walking through the door. He had surgery today.
I mean, I think we saw it yesterday with Josh Allen. Man,
That's it. You don't want to see him.
You don't want
to see him. You don't want to see him. Eagles might have done the AFC a huge favor. In the same way that the Niners, Lions, and Cowboys thought the Bills were about to do them a huge favor.
I definitely thought that.
Josh Allen is this generation's Favre, though, right?
I think so. I think he's better. I think he's better.
You know he's going to give you 1 or 2 a game, but you're going to have to stop him because he could get 4.
And he's just unstoppable.
He can
sometimes.
do it with his legs.
But
too.
he's doing, like Favre didn't have the legs.
Right.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.